Hello and welcome to Mended Teacups. We've got our cups of tea and we hope you're settled with yours. Today we're going to talk about why you might decide to educate your own children, what might take you down that path in the first place. So Molly, perhaps you could tell us, what led you to homeschooling?
Okay, thank you, Helen. Now I've written a few things down here, so I will try and go through them. So I think probably many different reasons, as probably with a lot of people, and actually our reasons have changed as we've travelled along the home ed path. So I guess the journey began with a few questions. I lived for a short while in another country, and so I was aware that UK school starts quite young, and I remember just questioning that, thinking, gosh, they do start at a very young age. Our oldest did a half-time reception in reception year, and I guess I noticed that he was generally quite a happy, chill child, and he just turned more stressy, and he didn't want to play with his brother when he got home. And I kind of thought, well, what's the point of having a brother if you don't want to play with him? He just needed space when he got home. I'm sure there's lots of good things about having a brother, but I kind of thought they should play with each other. He found ways of coping, but I didn't feel he should have to. He was very tired, and I thought this was strange. Everybody said, oh, they always get really tired, and I thought, but actually he's 4, should he be really tired? So I guess I started questioning. I'd also had lived for a while with a family who homeschooled their children, and initially I thought, well, why are you homeschooling your children? Because there's a good school down the road. But actually, I saw very, very quickly that they were a really strong family unit, that the kids were lovely, they were very open, they were very interested in life, and it seemed such a natural, normal way of mothering and being family. So that kind of logged in my mind as well. So I had it in the back of my mind. So I guess initially when we took Ben out, it wasn't that there was anything particularly wrong with the school. It was a good school, but it was just we didn't particularly like the system. But we kind of thought he'd probably go back to school in a couple of years' time. And then but he never has. He went to sixth form college. But our reasons have changed as we've gone along, in fact. So I guess now with the girls, I homeschool for slightly different reasons. And one of them is that I want to teach them from a Bible-based worldview. And our worldview education isn't neutral, and everything we're taught comes from a worldview of some sort. And I kind of wanted that to be coming from the basis of the fact that each child is individual and created for a reason and for a purpose and has a purpose in life, and that Christian worldview would kind of pervade into all their subjects all the time. And I think this is the best way to equip them for the future, to have a hope in the future. I definitely want them to be able to learn in a much more relaxed and less test-driven way. I think that's really, really important. They can actually I love the fact that we can do fun learning, I call it. We actually just do a lot of learning just for fun. We tend to go out quite a lot and do lots of kind of art and craft type things, and I love a lot of reading and stories, and I really love that more relaxed way of learning. I think children all have a natural curiosity when we look at toddlers. They want to poke their fingers into everything and spill everything and stir everything. And I think they have a natural curiosity. And I just so want to be able to keep that natural curiosity going through my kids, that actually it's not pushed out of them, the fact that they're just having to be pushed too much. So I want their curiosity in the world to increase, not to decrease. I don't want to push them too much too soon. Certainly for our oldest one, he's needing to peak now at A levels, and because he hasn't been pushed massively. I can see his capacity for learning and for working and for concentrating is increasing at this stage rather than decreasing, which is good because it's when he needs to be able to do it. I really would like to give opportunity for to create the space and environment for family relationships and sibling relationships, and actually I think those plus their relationship with God are probably the most important things that we can ever actually do as parents, and all the other things, all the academic stuff can come in due course at the right time for each child, but I think it's those relationships that are most important. I really do love being with them. I'm obviously human and I don't always love being with them, but as a general thing, I do. I think it's great, and we do have lots of fun times. I've got lots of fun memories to look back on. I think family is foundational in any society, and ours is certainly not perfect. It's almost always messy, but I think it's what kids need, and you can certainly do this, have family without home ed, but actually home ed is a very organic way to bring up and educate our children. So it seems very natural, and I think it's a really good way to educate them for life. And that's about it. And I've still for quite a long time. So Helen, what about you? What are yours?
Well, initially, Carl and I were having discussions about sending our oldest to school, and had a different opinion about what the early years should be about. So we already knew that education was an interesting thing that we had to discuss between us. We'd never heard of home education, but when we went to a Christian conference, our oldest was about a year old, and there was a family with a stand talking about home education as an option. The first day we walked past thinking, what a strange thing to do. But the second day we walked past, when their 16-year-old daughter was manning the stall, we got chatting with her, and I discovered that she was quite a normal teenager and quite pleasant. I don't know what my impressions might have been before I'd met her. So we started thinking about the possibility of homeschooling and not sending our child to school, until by the time he was school age, it was quite obvious that's what we wanted to do, to keep him at home for a little bit longer. We kind of felt 4 is a bit young to send a child to school, and he was a middle of the year child, not particularly young for his age, but he was a boy, and boys need a little bit more help, I think, maturing. He was a pretty well behaved boy. He wasn't necessarily a high flyer. We felt he might be in the middle and get a bit overlooked in a school group. He wouldn't be causing trouble and having to have extra attention that way, but neither would he be forging ahead and getting extra attention that way. We felt perhaps he would get a little bit lost in a group of 30 children. We also felt we didn't want him tied to a desk too early. We know obviously children first in reception years don't spend a lot of time at their desk, but it was another aspect of our thinking about how we wanted him to develop as a person. I'd enjoyed having him at home, and he had no siblings until he was about 4. I was expecting my second child when he would have gone to school, and a lot of friends well-meaningly said, oh, that'll be useful for you. You'll have the baby at home and he'll be looked after somewhere else. And I felt that was quite a sad reflection on what people thought was a good idea. I felt it was a shame that he wouldn't have a chance to know his sibling. And I thought, actually, I wanted him at home for the family, just as you were saying about the family relationships. I thought that would be a great thing. So we decided to keep him at home just for the infant stage and send him when he was 7. Well, yes, that didn't happen. By the time he was 7, we'd found friends, we'd found a routine, we'd found plans of how we wanted to teach, and in fact then his second sibling came along, so again he would have been at school when, instead of making friends with his newest sibling. So we kept him at home, and he didn't end up going to school until he was 17, when he went to sixth form college. It's worked really, really well for us. And again, that was, so our first initial idea was 4 is too young to send a child to school. But as we got used to homeschooling and found out all the other benefits, and you've talked about them already, but the idea that we can shape our children, the idea that we can have a family, strong family unit who learns together, lives together, discovers things together, the idea that schooling can be about sitting together on a sofa, really reading a really good book together, enjoying experiences together, has shaped the rest of our homeschooling lives, and more and more I can see how God has actually led me to this. I wouldn't have necessarily said I was homeschooling because that's what I felt as a Christian I should do. But more and more I feel God has shaped our homeschooling, and I have been able to base our learning around the fact that God made this world, and I want them to know that. So that's kind of where we came from.
Oh, thank you, Helen. That's really helpful. Thank you.
I think there's other reasons that other people have as well for homeschooling, and it's been nice in our homeschool group to meet people with lots of different options. Some children have been in school and found it difficult for different reasons. So we have people with maybe special educational needs that the schools found it difficult to meet, and they've been able to. I think the fact of having a personally tailored education has worked really well.
Yeah, I think that's something that I would certainly say as well. That actually our kids are all very different, but actually each one we can very much tailor the education towards them, and especially like you know, our oldest one's about the same age, and having in a sense seen them come, you know, enter into college at sixth form level, you can actually see. Yeah, I think homeschooling has prepared them. I think homeschooling's prepared them really well for college. So that's a good thing as well.
It's been interesting because I've seen one of my children maybe would be slightly on the special needs register, and so I would educate them at home. But then another of my children actually probably would be quite a high flyer, but I think would then pressurise herself, and so I've been able to hopefully give her that tailored extra learning without having the extra pressure as well.
No, I've certainly found that with the ones that they're going down very different routes. The two older ones, and I just think that that's such a wonderful blessing to be able to affirm each of those. They're just different. There's not one's better than the other, but they've both been able. They're just different, and we've been able to support them in each of the various ways, very similar to your two. And also I've just seen one of mine and possibly another one as quite severely, that word, heavily dyslexic, and I've certainly met families whose children have taken children out of school because it's just very difficult to teach a dyslexic child within a school system. Not impossible, but it is difficult. And I've just been incredibly we didn't know he was dyslexic when we started, but I've just been incredibly grateful that he hasn't had all the pressure of having to try to jump through hoops, which actually he should be jumping through a different hoop. A bit like, I think there was it you telling me, or somebody was telling me a picture, I think it might have been a teacher friend of mine in a Times Education supplement or something, and it had a picture of a tree and a fish, and the fish had to try and reach the top of the tree, and the test of the whether the fish was doing a good job or not would be able to reach the top of the tree, and obviously fishes can't do that, whereas if you put a fish in water, it swims. And I think one of the wonderful things about home ed is that actually we can put each of our children in the environment, create an environment that they will thrive best in, and that can be different for each one of them.
Yes.
And I think that's really good.
Recently somebody was asking about how will my child make friends? They're very shy if I take them out of school. Well, I would say one of my children was quite shy, did find it difficult, but being able to be in a home environment, being encouraged by me, having me alongside them as they made friends and encouraged them to make friends, has enabled them to come out of their shell much more easily, I feel, looking in. And now there is a group of friends that mean a lot to him. So that's very. I think the home ed has helped him with his shyness.
Yeah, that's something my husband actually often says, that as well, that the security of being homeschooled and being able to build relationships in kind of non-pressurized small ways, and with rather than just peers, with different all ages as well, that actually children come out as more confident rather than less confident. It seems converse, is that the right word? But actually that they often. But I think that would be a good idea for another podcast. Actually, talk about socialising, because that's one of the most
big issue.
That's one of the most asked questions, isn't it? Yeah.
And I don't know, definitely another reason that I've found has been a great reason, again with hindsight looking back, is Henry took a bit longer to learn to read than his peers did, and I'm very, very pleased that he was able to do that, because once he got the reading, he loves reading, and for a long time we couldn't get his nose out of a book. And I really feel that if he had been pushed to read when he was quote unquote supposed to, he would have hated reading forever. So it's following delight, following interest, and not having to stop learning something just because the bell's rung.
And going with it when they're interested in something, being able to go with it rather than say, well, actually that's not on my particular lesson plan for today, which is I think also, I think children are more able to learn when they're actually interested in it themselves, so they probably take on more.
I think so.
I think that's a good thing too.
There's a few good reasons to homeschool. I hope that's helpful.